framework is conducive for NSC to operate competitively in a private sector-led economy. 3. NSC operates in a time-result-based momentum to ensure that all strategic partnerships and all commitments are efficiently and effectively delivered. NSC is currently in midway to its 2010, 2011, 2014, 2015 strategic plan. And under the auspices of this plan, the objective delivery approaches includes 1. Redevelopment and urban renewal. NSC properties are sitting in prime areas where the value land is far expensive than its buildings. Redeveloping these properties will help on facelifting of major cities across the country, while giving NSC the economic benefit for its properties and thus stimulating the entire economy. 2. Satellite cities and master planning. Develop the satellite cities by playing a master developer role. 4. Affordable housing scheme to cater for the low-income segment. Under the strategic plan, several achievements have been realized. 1. Ongoing construction of houses targeting low, middle, and high-income earners across the country, aiming to build 15,000 units by 2015. 2. NSC has partnered with commercial banks and financial institutions to finance construction of housing projects and offer mortgage finance to potential buyers to purchase NSC houses. Currently, real estate and construction contributes 10.2% of GDP in Tanzania, and the potential for its growth is big because of the huge, yet to be sufficiently catered for, high demand of domestic, commercial, and other users. Further, the rationale and potential for investment in the real estate sector in Tanzania is enormous because on top of current demand being high, the pattern and socio-economic trends of the country foretell of increasing demand. It is estimated that the country's demand for housing is more than 3 million units, growing at an annual rate of 200,000 units. The patterns of economic activities and trend of Tanzania also indicates that there is and will continue to be high demand for real estate services and products. For example, the fast tracking of the integration of the East African countries through the East Africa Community, where increased trade, movement of people, and other institutional diversification and growth creates demand. The border regions and posts, such as Namanga border of Tanzania and Kenya, offer lucrative potential, especially with the EAC common market under construction in the Tanzanian side of the border. Moreover, development in sectors such as mining, oil and gas exploration, and drilling are set to sharply increase demand in real estate, as is the case with other sectors that have attracted investment and increasing trade, for example, in commodities, agriculture, land and water, infrastructure for Tanzania and the region, retail, for instance, tourism, telecommunication, information technology, financial services, housing finance, as well as transportation, road, air, and water. NSC is the largest real estate company in East and Central Africa, with a capital base that stands at about $1 billion and asset worth $1.35 billion. NSC stands as a strong partner to invest with. NSC Public-Private Sector Partnership, PPP, can be considered in any of the following arrangements: land as equity contribution, land and finance as equity contribution, revenue sharing model. We welcome all interested investors to partner with NSC and invest in real estate development in Tanzania.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite our first speaker, the Director General, NHC, Mr. Nehemia Mchechu.
Your Excellency, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Dr. Nehemia Mchechu, Honorable Ministers who have attended this function, our friends partners, potential investors from Singapore. And ladies and gentlemen, I think protocol has been observed. Let me welcome you to our dinner, and we feel so privileged that you've been able to spare your time to come and be with us. Thanks a lot. Before I move further to my presentation, let me take a special time just to introduce the few ministers who are sitting among us, and we've done purposeful to put them on a different table so that while we are moving on, also business discussion can be continued. Let me start by introducing our minister, the Minister of Land, Housing and Human Settlement Development, Professor Anna Bajuka. If you can just stand up and raise your hand. Next, let me introduce Honorable Dr. Abdallah Kigoda, who is our Minister for Industry and Trade. Wherever you are, if you can stand up. And let me also introduce Honorable Bernard Membe, who is our Minister for Foreign Affairs. I will go further and introduce Dr. Harrison Mwakembe, who is our Minister of Transport and Infrastructure. Let me also introduce Honorable Rashid Suleiman, who is the Minister of Infrastructure in Zanzibar. Thank you. As you are sitting around the tables, you have different government leaders, the CEOs of the private sector in Tanzania, and the parastatals, and I think you will continue exchanging the cards. The beauty, everyone has a name tag, so it's much easier for us to know and call you. Thanks. As you are walking in, we were playing a song, a very nice one. We are saying it's time for Africa. And I just want to emphasize, it is time for Africa, it's time for East Africa. Most important, it is a time for Tanzania. And as you come to Tanzania, I think I feel proud to mention that this is the land of Kilimanjaro, Serengeti, and Zanzibar, which are the spice of, we call it the Spice Islands. And at the same time, we've got so many tourist attractions. So on the same note, I want to welcome you and come and experience the gift that God had given to this good world, but very, very fortunate, also positioned in Tanzania. Why, I just want to spend some few minutes, why we are, I want to refer this as a time for Africa. And I think that the time for Africa is now. Because before, people used to perceive that investing in Africa is a risk. I think today is a different. Not investing in Africa is a risk. But just few issues which you can agree with me. Today you see so many panels which are devoted to discuss Africa opportunities and challenges, not problems. Certainly there are challenges, and some of them they cause business opportunity. The perception of Africa is changing very fast. It is unfortunate maybe we haven't had decisive efforts to brand Africa. But indeed, even without that, the perception is changing very fast. I just want to remember or to remind you on what Economist newspaper, the Economist magazine wrote in May 2000. By then, the cover of the magazine said the hopeless continent. So Africa was considered as a hopeless continent. Today, Africa is a rising star. And economists recorrected themselves shortly later. The continent compounded GDP has been growing at an average of 5.1 across Africa, which is just the second from Southeast Asia. And therefore it is an area with a huge potential opportunity. Trade and investment links between Africa and the rest of the world are on an upward trend. And I think part of these efforts, that's why we are here in this evening. The external indebtedness and the budgetary deficit are at a manageable level. Most important is the governance that has improved significantly in Africa. It is to be recognized that Africa has 54 countries. And sometimes a spotlight in one area, it seems to be, it gets branded as the situation for the entire continent. It isn't, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen a peaceful transition of government through electoral processes. Recently, we are observing the election in Kenya. We've seen similar things in Ghana, Zambia, and Tanzania, where we are now in the fourth regime of our government. And all along, there has been a smoothie, democratic movement from one regime to another. Indeed, I say it is a time, still this is time for Africa, and I don't know whether you knew these statistics, that Africa consumed in 2012 across 54 countries collectively, we spend more than the consumers in India. Actually, we spend more than $1 trillion. And mobile spaces, subscribers have been doubling every 50 months, actually since 2000. And the most important is just a mobile for communications. It is a mobile that Africans and in particular they're using more for business. Today there are more business transactions through mobile phones than you see it on the banking system. So that's a good reflection of how things are moving on. Most critical, if you look by 2035, it is estimated that Africa will have a more working age, more people of the working age than either India or China. It sets a huge potential market for this world. It is a very good potential market. Of course, we will have also to adopt some good ways, some other countries what they've done in terms of utilizing these good resources, and one of them is Singapore. The opportunities, as I've mentioned, there are much more many. There are many, but of course they go without challenges. We would like to comment on some of the challenges, but I'm saying every challenge that I see in Africa to me is a business opportunity. And as we are here today, you'll see some of the parts where the cost of living is becoming very expensive as it can be reflected in rents, and it means that there's an opportunity to invest there in the houses. The productivity in Africa, especially in agriculture, is low. Africa stands a potential chance, and actually, it's a future world basket of food. And therefore, it sends another signal that there could be, there is a huge opportunity for that investment. Most important, of course, infrastructure is not as the first group infrastructure we've seen in Singapore here, but that's just a challenge. It's not a problem. It's a challenge for investment. It's a challenge that we can tap and take into opportunities. Across Africa, I think the amount of investment that needs to be going into the infrastructure stands at about 100 billion a year. That this can sustain for the next 20 to 30 years. So again, just an opportunity for that. I just spoke of GDP for Africa. The beauty is this graph helps to show that Tanzania is among the top performers. Actually, we are number 6, if I was to be very specific. But also, if I look on the initiatives that our president is leading, His Excellency is driving in the country, and what the government is doing, and what everyone is trying to push for, I wouldn't be surprised if Tanzania will be among the top 3 performers in GDP in the coming 2 years, or during his tenure. Again, I wanted to reflect a little bit in terms of prime office rents across Africa. I said some areas have become more expensive, like where, I think, I'm sorry for my eyes, it's Rwanda, where the rent per square meter goes as high as $150. And you know what? It's because of opportunities which are there, the oil and everything is driving there. But to me, the most important is just to reflect to where Dar es Salaam is, which is the main business center. Rwanda, Angola. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. What is reflecting here is that Dar es Salaam is offering quite a good returns as well in terms of rents, but again, it's a mature market. That's what is the important message here. I just took you through the Africa in a nutshell, and maybe I should come a little bit on East Africa. East Africa's population there are 6 countries within East Africa, but I don't know whether you knew the card of man is in Tanzania, and we probably all originate from Tanzania here, and that's why we are encouraging to come back where you originate. Most important, the largest water bodies, fresh water, are in East Africa. Actually, the largest river, the largest lake, for a lake, yes, so fresh water is within that region, and that's Lake Victoria. So that's the largest in the world. I think the countries all combined together, they offer a huge opportunity with 130 million people, with a GDP of around 100 billion, and it's quite a sizable end around there. We are talking about 1.8 million square meters, almost half of it is in Tanzania. And that's why we say it's the largest country in East Africa. As I said, we are a multi-party. We are we've embraced the multi-party democracy as a country. We've had a very stable government with a historical, peace and powerful transition from one regime to another. The country now is in the fourth regime under His Excellency President Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, whom we are lucky tonight that is here with us in this dinner. While I will be focusing purely on the real estate sector tonight, but I should just take a few minutes just to explain to you that there are more other opportunities in Tanzania. We are talking about agriculture. I just explained to you the size of land we have and the water bodies, the energy in terms of oil and gas, and the huge findings that we've seen recently in the East Africa region. We are talking about transportation opportunities, infrastructure for Tanzania and the region, also taking consideration the strategic location where our country is positioned, mining and commodities, which is quite huge. Don't forget we have also Tanzanite, which is you can only find in Tanzania. And that's the sort of blessings that are there in the country. Real estate sector and the construction is a good contributor in our GDP, and today it is contributing about 20% of our total GDP. And therefore, it's an area that we think it will continue to move. It needs to be driven more and to bring more economic impact to our economy. Just to brief you, appraise you on some of the few statistics. As it is today, it takes between 5 to 10 years for someone to complete the house, but because you don't have enough developers. The major developer we have is National Housing and other smaller developers, and that's why we are trying to look for more partners who can work together. But I'm inviting you, and we are inviting you to share a big cake. It's not a small economy in this sector alone. Just taking consideration of a housing deficit, which are more than 3 billion, actually stands at more than 3 million houses. Therefore, we are talking about a 200 billion potential economy, more than 200 billion. And the annual demand of houses stands at 200,000 houses per annum, of which potentially we are talking about a 12 billion economy. I know people in Singapore, you are used to big economy numbers. And I think as you are moving several miles, coming down to Africa and coming down to Tanzania, certainly we will invite you on a bigger economic opportunity. And this one, it goes without saying. If you look on the housing deficit, which I've just mentioned to you, the annual demand, the population growth, urban migration, all of it poses a huge opportunity that we can continue to tap and enjoy. While the people will benefit, as well as business people, we will be able to get a better returns. And I consider it as a good social business that we can all enjoy. With all those opportunities, that's why we say let's sit down with the potential partners. Most of you have had discussions, some will continue having discussions, but it's also important for you to have a rough picture of what institution that we are talking. We are talking an institution which is now we claim to be the largest company in Tanzania and in East Africa by capital base. Most important, National Housing is the company with the largest number of housing units south of Sub-Sahara. And I'm talking about south of Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm talking about more than 40 countries. So we are inviting you to come and work and partner with